Here we go. Welcome back to the podcast where we think we know everything, but really we don't know shit. We don't know shit. Even though Hard Knocks started the other day, we still don't know shit. Except for we do know Caleb is our starting quarterback. It's the Caleb show on Hard Knocks. At least the first episode, it was all about Caleb, pretty much. So, you know that's why they have Hard Knocks in Chicago in the first place, because they want to follow this number one guy who makes the expectations, at least for me. Do I need to say it? You all should be conditioned to know what I'm about to say. Playoffs! Producer? Playoffs! All right, well, maybe he's a little bit behind, but that's the expectation of this number one draft.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
We are going to win 12 games. 12 games, mark my words. Maybe even more than that.
Don't do drugs. If you're doing it, stop it. Get some help.
I am not doing drugs. I am not. 12 games. 12 games. If not, I will buy everybody a drink that comes to Hugh after the season. We will have a big party, and I will buy everybody a drink if we don't win 12 games. But if you don't remember I said this, I ain't buying you nothing. But yeah, man, we got great guests on tonight. They have been on the podcast before. The Ruzicka twins. Do you all remember them? They are legends in the Chicago sports game. They were ball boys for the Cubs. They were clubhouse kids for the Bears. And so they've been all over the Chicago sports scene, and they have a lot of stories to tell. And they have a book that I recommend that you all go get. You Chicago sports buffs, you'll love it because they have a lot of funny stories in here, a lot of tear jerkers. And I want to shout them out because Carl didn't know me from a can of paint, but came to my dad's funeral. So, I mean, that tells you what kind of character these guys have. And that really touched me, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, so we're going to have a great time talking to them. And yeah, I can't wait. We're going to talk about Hard Knocks. It's just going to be a great show. So you know what, Crooked? Let's go.
You are now rocking with the Chicago Clubhouse podcast, where they think they know everything, but honestly, they don't know shit.
These summer league games and they tell you about these new up and coming coaches.
I think we should get rid of every motherfucking owner in Chicago.
Enzo and Caruso, both when they are on the court, are like your defensive generals.
But they need to get that strong safety who's not scared to hit somebody.
They really don't know shit.
we've got to get Rick back on this podcast because every time I hear that, I'm like, oh my God, we don't know shit. But he rubs it in. They really don't know shit. I mean, damn, we know a little something, no, don't we? Well, I don't know. But like I was saying, Hard Knocks has started, and we still do not know how this roster is going to shape up. But because of some of the preseason games, a couple of the preseason games that have happened, we kind of see who is stepping up, who's hungry, and who really wants a fucking job. And we will talk about all of that too with my man, the stat man, who knows every single stat from every single team, 80s and 90s, basketball and football, and has recently been named the Cynic. My man, JB.
Tell you what's happening.
What up, JB? The Cynic.
Nothing much, man. Pretty fair for a square, you know.
Fair for a square, man. You sound like my uncle.
That's the plan.
Man, what do you think about the Bears thus far? We got 2 games under our belt now.
You know what? You already know what I'm gonna come down with. Like, I'm still concerned about the offensive line. Although Caleb looked pretty good. I was pleased for the most part. He still, not still, but from the 18 snaps that he played when he dropped back, did you notice he did what? He was holding the ball a little too long. And one of the things that I did kind of like say to myself that I wasn't going to harp on too much, I really wish he had tried to connect with that deep, a deep over or corner route in the end zone with Rome.
Yeah.
And he went out and
yeah. People
I
think
wish
that
he had
was throwing it out, but he actually overthrew it.
I would have loved to see the 50-50 ball and see Rome.
Right. Just get up, get it.
Because this is the time to see it because, just because it happened in practice. Now, although Buffalo was not the greatest test in the secondary because their secondary is depleted. No Jordan Poyer. I forgot the other dude. Real good. Micah Hyde. No Micah Hyde. So, like, 2 of their Pro Bowl DBs weren't playing. Matter of fact, they're not even on the team. So, I take it for what it's worth. He looked good. The shovel pass was amazing. That was some improvisation. The pass to Cole on the sideline. What I did notice was, unlike what Getsy didn't do with Justin, Waldron did roll out and have some bootlegs with 3 reads.
Now, that pass to Cole Kmet, come on, man. That was kind of unbelievable.
That was a rocket. That was a rocket.
That was a rocket and off his back foot because he was running out. He was running towards the sideline and he threw it off his back foot, and it was a rocket.
And like I said, I appreciate those, but then I look at, again, like I said, he is the receiving core, great, phenomenal. Tight ends, above average to what? A minus, maybe B plus, A minus. The running backs about a B plus, B minus. But that line, I'm still concerned about that line. I'm still concerned about that line.
Yeah, I think everybody's concerned about that, man. I think everybody's concerned about the line. But overall, what grade would you give if you had to give them a grade? Damn, it takes this long for you to give him a grade, man.
Because I want to grade him properly. Like, I'm not going to jump and be like, oh, A plus because he made a trick play. But I give him a solid B plus. I give him a solid B plus. Because, like I said, the holding the ball a little longer. I did like when he did scramble, but the holding the ball, we just came from a bunch of people.
You would give Caleb a B plus. What would you give the whole team?
I mean, the whole team gets an A. They beat the crap out of Buffalo.
But you just said that wasn't a true test.
It wasn't, but you have to have a building block. And then remember, Kyler didn't play. Jaquan Brisker didn't play. I don't think Tyreek, their main guys didn't play. That's why I said the overall team, I give an A. Caleb, like I said, I give a B+ because it's not that he did anything bad. It's just two concerns, like the 2 times he held the ball too long, and then the pass to Rome. That's it. But other than that, I mean, a B+ is a good grade. Like, that's not bad.
Well,
I would have liked to see some touchdowns. I would have liked to see him throw some touchdowns, but
Well, let's ask our next All-Star the same things. So he usually has that hawk talk, but might not be much hawk talk today. I think we're probably going to talk a lot of Bears, and then we're going to talk with Carl. You remember Carl, right? The twins? I know you remember because you were here. Yeah.
I remember when you said the name, I didn't remember. And then I said, oh, wait, duh.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to talk to them. But first, we're going to bring in our next All-Star, Frank the Tank.
What's up, fellas?
What's up, man? How you doing?
It's so nice to
Here now.
break down a fucking football game. Man.
So
we're rolling out the grades right from the get-go, huh?
Right from the gate, Frank.
I am giving Caleb a solid A-, and I am giving the Bears a solid A, just like how JB was saying on that one. I hear where you're coming from. I do feel at times Caleb did hold on to the ball a little long, but I don't think he was sacked once, so we can't really say the offensive line played that bad. I saw Caleb doing a very nice job with his mechanics, stepping up in the pocket. Take away that first drop back of the game. It kind of freaked me out because I was just like, oh, my God, you got the snap. You ran for your life. This is not a good freaking start. But other than that, stepped up in the pocket. Very good mechanics. Very good footwork. Delivering fucking bullets, man. I got him in that beautiful little dump pass. And I was saying this stuff. Actually, as funny as it sounds, I was talking to Dave about this. Justin would have kind of panicked in that situation and tried running for his life, getting away and scrambling. Caleb kind of stood in there, did a little flick pass. Very nice play. I'm giving him credit for that one. And when we're going as far as that end zone where he did miss, I do feel that was a miscommunication. I think Rome wanted a jump ball while Caleb tried feeding him in the back of the end zone. So,
see, I thought Caleb threw it away because of how high it was.
No, he
had a little velocity on it too.
I mean, I guess at the same time, it could have been a throwaway. At the same time, it could have been in the back of the end zone because it landed kind of in the back of the end zone.
He wasn't throwing that ball.
Yeah,
away.
I don't think he was throwing.
If you saw his reaction, like.
But I mean, the only reason he's getting
the reaction was like, "Damn, I shouldn't have thrown it away," because it wasn't like a traditional trajectory ball.
It very well could have been.
Throw it out the back of the end zone, live to fight another day.
But I think the only reason he gets an A- in my book is he had one that should have been picked. That was a very bad decision, a very bad pass. I think that was possibly to Rome as well. But that was was that a free play though?
I thought that was a free play.
Okay, but still, I mean, a free play, you throw it deep. You don't throw out like 6-7 yards. But regardless, that was really the only mistake I saw from him all game. So
come on, Keith.
What did he say?
I don't know why we got to go right to Fields. Not one person on this panel has talked about Justin Fields.
Oh my God, come on, man!
We have given nothing but Caleb praise
Justin
right
Fields
now.
No more.
Yeah, I mean, we're giving Caleb praise. He played extremely well for his first game. And I know it was a preseason game, but regardless, he played extremely well. I was very impressed. And I know we missed a lot of players, specifically on the defensive side of things, but hey, I know again it's preseason, but I'm liking Booker. I mean, that was a great start for Booker. And we always say this, and we love saying it as Bears fans, he had a dog in him. That guy was not stopping. Even if the play got behind him, he was trailing the play, making tackles from behind. I really liked it.
I liked Booker, but for me, I really liked what I saw to Jalen Jones. Like
there was a lot of people who played very well.
He's putting some pressure on people. I'm assuming, right? I'm assuming you all appreciated what happened with Velus Jones, and then Velus turned into Velvet.
I was just gonna say, and then he muffed the punt. I mean, like right when you're sitting there, and I think Jim Miller. No, actually, I'm sorry. I was watching our guy Keith on Undisputed, and he was talking about. He was just like, right when you see positive things from Velus, bam, something happens.
Hi, I'm David Jones.
It's unbelievable. I don't get it.
Do we have any video? He tried to do a punt like this.
I know. That's not.
That's a no-no. That's a no-no.
You bring that ball in, dude. You can't even catch a pass, let alone trying to do that on a punt.
I will say this though. No shade, right? But the D coordinator comes from Buffalo. And remember, the last couple of years when fully stocked, Buffalo had a pretty good defense. So I like some of his schemes in the cover two. He seems to be very knowledgeable in cover two. I like the possibility of what the Bears defense could be. I even saw Dominic Robinson get a sack.
Yeah.
And, we haven't heard that name in a 2-year project, right? So
yeah, he might be on the bubble, man.
Well, at this point, because what do you really want between Walker, Robinson, and then Booker's gonna play, man. Like he's gonna play.
Yes.
So if he's splitting time with Walker and if Booker's splitting time with Walker and Dominic Robinson, like I don't mind that platoon as much. But one of them has to step up and take that position to complement Montez Sweat now. This is the time that you do
Silky D.
Well, you're a different animal, Silky D. You can do that.
Silky, I think you dropped one pass like in your whole career.
You can do that.
You're different.
You earn the right of having sick hands. And Velus has not earned that right yet.
No,
he has no hands.
He can't. This is a no for Velus.
He's that dude in freaking The Little Giants who had to catch toilet paper because he had such soft hands.
Velus / Jones is no Silky D. Period.
No.
I mean, he hasn't earned that even in the beginning of that conversation. So when you haven't earned that, you catch it the right damn way.
Yes.
And I'm like the whole running back thing now. To your point, what you were talking about last week, Khalil Herbert looked pretty decent.
Yeah, he did pretty good.
Yeah,
he was getting to the outside. That's what we like to see.
But you know who we didn't see?
Who?
We didn't see Roshan.
Did he even play? I don't even think he dressed today.
No,
and we didn't see Roshan, and we didn't see what's our big receiver name?
That guy who played the one game.
Number 80.
Number 80. We didn't see him either.
Yeah, hopefully they didn't come.
I saw Simba Webster. I saw Pettis, right?
Oh God. Yes.
No, Pettis did pretty good.
Yeah,
he did have one drop pass. He did have one
right.
drop pass. But
I'm just talking about overall. Oh God.
And I mean, this is the thing. Flipping it back over to Caleb really quick. What did he finish? 4 for 7 or was it 4 for 8?
Hold on.
Because let's not forget there were 2 drop passes.
I thought he was more than that because he hit Swift twice. He hit Moore.
Because I only remember 2 incompletions.
He hit Cole.
The interception was a free play, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
I think
so
he was
7. 4 Yeah, 4 for 7 with 2 drops. Well,
and
actually, you know what?
Dropped.
The DJ wasn't, to me, that wasn't a drop. That was just a good defensive play. It looked like he had it and then somebody punched it out.
But unfortunately, that's still going to go as a drop, unfortunately, because it did hit DJ in the chest. So, I mean, regardless, I agree 100% with you. That was a great defensive play. I mean, and Caleb fed that ball right where it needed to go, too. So that wasn't on
Colin Johnson. We were both on Colin Johnson.
Yeah.
I wanted to see a little more than him. But, and this will be the only time I will allow some Justin comparison to talk right now. The same reason that people got excited about the Swift play that went for like 40, 50 yards, right?
Justin did that with DJ.
Justin did that with DJ twice.
He did that with DJ twice in preseason.
Twice in the last year. And people were like, oh, that's nothing. That was a 2-yard pass and an 80-yard run. Okay, this was a half a yard pitch and a 50-yard run. Give the same credit.
Yeah, but this is the thing where I will say the difference in this one is Caleb did it while sitting inside the pocket. Like I believe both of Justin's were outside.
No,
Either
that
out,
first
one was outside the pocket,
was
and one was behind the pocket, one was outside the pocket. None of them were right in the middle of the pocket.
No, the screen pass is in the pocket, right?
Well, yeah, but there was no like circle hovered around him. There was no pressure on Justin when he made those passes or anything like that. Regardless, it doesn't matter. A play's a play. But I'm
saying, like, to credit Caleb for a wow factor play and not credit Justin was my problem.
No,
like,
you're
let's
not wrong
keep it
in that. Yeah, you're not wrong.
100%. Like, let's keep it a buck when we talk about that type of stuff, because I'll give a little grace to somebody saying what was Justin's grade, right? But I mean, aside from the two fumbles,
I mean, technically Justin did have a perfect passer rating. It's just unfortunately he fumbled.
Wait. What are we talking about?
I don't know. Dave, I think, asked one of the questions earlier, what do you give Justin Fields grade? But let's not talk about Justin Fields.
Who gives a flying?
No, that's why I said it's the only time.
Yeah.
You got to stop being such a person like that. Because when people bring up the comparisons, we are going to hear this all year. So it's going to be
it's not going to change.
Man, I
don't
want to.
We can't censor that shit out.
We have to have it.
I don't want to let Justin be Justin in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I wish Justin nothing but success, but right now we're Bears here.
Right.
We lost. I was just going to say.
I didn't say that. I said there's going to be comparisons all year. Therefore, it makes
I don't want to be
good
part
conversation.
Of. I don't
bring in our guest.
I don't want to be part of those.
Bring in our guest to talk.
But yeah. So anyway, our guest tonight has stories with legends like Willie Gallimore, Bobby Hull, Stan Mikita, and like I said, they are legends in Chicago football. I mean, Chicago sports, not just football. So this is gonna be a fun conversation. And chat, please get involved. Ask him all the questions that you know of, and we'll try to post all of them. Okay, but Carl is a lot of fun. Let's bring him in here, Carl Ruzicka.
Okay, can you hear me?
We hear you.
So beautiful.
We got that bug out of the way.
Yeah. So just to start, I want you to know that I went to Terrence's father's funeral. You know, he was a great Bear, and I also went to George Hallis's funeral. So between the Hallis and Nickel family, we were rolling. So you guys are talking about the current state of affairs for the Bears, of which I share all three of yours excitement.
Most excited we've been in a while, man.
Yeah. The first year that my brother and I were Clubhouse boys was 1963. We were freshmen in high school at Morton East and Cicero. And that year, the Bears won the championship. So that was not the Super Bowl hadn't started yet. It was just the NFL championship.
Okay.
Was that Mike Ditka?
Mike Ditka was the tight end. Willie Gallimore and Ronnie Bull were the halfbacks. Joe Marconi and Rick Caceres were the fullbacks. Johnny Morris was the flanker back. Billy Wade was the quarterback. But on the defense, which what I see is sort of happening now in a 14-game schedule, the Bears had 36 interceptions and 17 fumble recoveries. So that's 53 turnovers in 14 games, pretty much 4 turnovers a game. Our favorite player, Roosevelt Taylor, free safety from Grambling, one of the greatest Bears of all time, led the NFL with 9 interceptions. The strong safety, Richie Pettibone, had 8 interceptions. The quarterbacks, Benny McRae and Dave Witzel, had 6 interceptions each. So that's 9, 8, 17, 6, and 6. My math is right. 29 interceptions just from the 4 members of the defensive backfield. And I went to a fundraiser for Maryville Academy, and Coach Eberflus was there. And I says, take a look at the 1963 Bear films. They were on top of the opposition's quarterback constantly. Doug Atkins in the Hall of Fame, a terrific pass rushing defensive end. The linebackers, Larry Morris and Joe Fortunato, probably should be in the Hall of Fame, but are not. The middle linebacker, Bill George, is in the Hall of Fame. They always put pressure on the quarterback, and that seems to be what's happening now with the current Bears. So that gives me cause for excitement.
So you think that Eberflus is taking a page from the defense from back in 1963?
I don't know that he's taking the philosophy.
That's a black and white page right there, 63.
Right? So, he's not laying back and seeing what happens. He's going to be forcing the issue.
Okay.
All right. And the 63 Bears, they were known as, as the defense led the charge to win the championship. Mm-hmm. But the offense, they weren't really terrible. Billy Wade was a very tough quarterback. His passing rating for the year was only 74. All right. His completion rating was 53 something.
It's like our Bears now. Maybe not now.
But he was tough. He stayed in the pocket. Looking at the last few years, the quarterback sneaks. It's almost impossible for them to advance into the end zone or get a first down with a sneak. Billy Wade was tremendous at that. Had a lot of power. He was 6'2", and those were just wonderful times for my brother and I. Mm. So we were there with a lot of Hall of Famers, starting with Coach Hallis. He was a coach, but it's more like an honorary coach. Was Sid Luckman, who is still considered the Bears' greatest quarterback of all time. And on a Saturday, he'd come out, and Tony and I he wanted to play catch with Tony and I. We felt so sorry for him. And geez, look at this old guy. All right. He couldn't palm the ball. So he sort of like cradled it and just slung the passes to us. We thought, man, this guy is ancient. All right. He was only 47 at the time. Right now I'm 75. Right. George Hallis was only 68. But we thought those guys, man, they were old.
Oh, wow.
So Mike Ditka, tremendous player, tremendous blocker, tremendous receiver. He was a real intense player. Again, it was sort of like the defense ran the show, but Mike Ditka was really respected by the defensive core. So I would say like it was the defensive core plus Mike Ditka were what got him to the championship.
Mm. So that's kind of been the philosophy all throughout the Bears' history. The defense is the focal point, and then you have a serviceable to good tight end. The Bears usually kept a good tight end. You got Greg Olsen, Desmond Clark, Jim Thornton back in the day. So they usually kept
Emery Moorhead.
Yeah, Emery Moorhead. So they kept a good tight end, but defense was always.
We're in high school, right? Just little scrawny kids, and but we knew a lot about football, and They played at Wrigley Field at that time, so the lower level was the locker rooms, and then you go up just 3 set of stairs. You'd have one side would be the washrooms, and the other side's a trainer room, and then you go up another 3 steps, and then there'd be like the coaches area.
Mhm.
All right, so sometimes we ask the players, what are the plays? What are the names of the plays? You know, what are the wording that they use to call a play? Southmo lens 26 right. I remember that one. All right, but we memorized all the terminology, and a lot of times in the coach's room they throw some of the plays in the garbage can, and we retrieve them and memorize the plays. So you guys probably don't remember this, but they had a third string quarterback, Larry Rakestraw, our last year of working, 1966. He's from Georgia Tech, and my brother and I would grill him every Saturday and Sunday. If you ever get in the game, these are the plays, and this is the sequence of plays. All right. So we went away to college, and he ended up starting a game against New York. They got 31 points at halftime using my brother and I's plays. All right. Unfortunately, broke his leg. All right.
Oh, wow.
In the second half. So we were real excited. We're in college, so we're watching it on TV. We're real excited. And 20-something years later, I found out his phone number and called him in Georgia. And he said, I use your and your brother's plays, just like
Wow.
you drew them up. So that's what the current bears, right? Misdirection, play action, passes, all the things that make for a variety that the defense doesn't really know, can't sit down on one thing and only concentrate on one area.
Well, you should write them up some more plays.
Yeah, so sort of like drawing in the dirt, right? When you're a kid, right? So the Johnny Morris, held for a long time. Johnny Morris held the NFL record, certainly the Bears record, 93 receptions in a year, right? Not in 1964. Mike Ditka had 75 that year, by the way, as a tight end, also set a record. All right. But on the 93 receptions for Johnny Morris, high percentage. He ran out 10 yards, no faking, and just turned around.
Hey, Carl, I got a question.
Yeah.
If you're telling me that year, Ditka got 90, Ditka had 75 receptions. Johnny Morris had 93. Who else got the receptions?
Not too many people.
Yeah,
unfortunately, that was the year that in the early part of the training camp, Willie Gallimore and John Farrington got killed in the car crash.
Oh.
All right, so we're missing. John Farrington was a wide receiver.
Okay.
And Gallimore was a terrific halfback.
Right.
So Morris and Ditka did a lot of the work, but they had really no other support. So that team wasn't very good.
Oh.
But the next year, again, this is our third year, they drafted Dick Butkus. They drafted Gale Sayers. They drafted Dick Gordon from Michigan State, was also a wide receiver. And things turned around real quickly, 1965.
Who was the quarterback then?
Rudy Bukich, Rifle Rudy from USC. He was at the tail end of his career, but I think he led the NFL in passing in 1965.
So
there's a question.
To ask you, hold on. I wanted to ask you this question because that 1963 team seems to be like one of the best turnover machines, right? the similarities you saw, and then obviously when Atkins and them got a little older, you brought in Buffon, you brought in Butkus and all that. Do you feel that they're emulating those key components now with the way they're constructed?
It seems that they are. Because
I noticed the big hitters.
Each of those guys. I mean, Doug Atkins for his time was a huge guy. He was listed at. He was 6'8". He was listed at 255, but I'm sure he was closer to 300 pounds. But he was very fast, very agile, and all of the guys had at that time had some size and had speed. And now the current roster, it seems like they have size and they have speed.
I like it.
And the speed makes up for a lot of things. So I think you had a question there with Ditka get his coaching style from George Halas, and I would pretty much say yes. Although, you got to remember George Halas now in the years that we were there, he was say more of a cheerleader than he was a technician.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't George a little bit more of like a player's coach, while Ditka, everybody fucking hated him.
Yeah, but George Halas, it's certainly the players were somewhat afraid of him, and I think the same thing was true with Mike Ditka. And he liked to play sort of like smash, beat 'em up football. And Mike Ditka was good at that.
Players were scared of Mike Ditka when he was coaching?
I would say, somewhat, out of respect. They certainly didn't want to get it on the wrong side of him.
Fans were scared of him.
You saw him pull Mike Tomczak by the underneath his shoulder pad more than once, right? He got into Harbaugh's face. He didn't take any guff. George Halas would never do any of that. He was sort of beyond that stage, all right? But they feared him.
But don't you think they had to make a change? Because after Papa Bear, I was watching a history of the Bears years ago, and I remember they had like a lot of lame coaches.
They had lots of lame coaches. The lamest of all, Abe Gibberin.
Abe Gibberin, and they had a bunch of old guys that were just soft and not. And that's why he brought in Ditka from Dallas. He was a special teams coach.
Yeah. So my brother and I take some credit for George Halas selecting Mike Ditka.
Okay.
When Mike Ditka was still with the Cowboys, and they're going to play the Bears at Soldier Field on the Sunday. And this is a Saturday night.
You mean when he was playing with the Cowboys
he was finishing up with the Cowboys. I can't remember if he was a player or if he was a coach at the time. But I was walking by myself downtown on a Saturday night, walking by the old Executive House. And if you remember, that was on Wacker between Wabash and State. And Mike Ditka was out there by himself. And I hadn't seen him for years. After since we had went to college. Now I'm in accounting, I think, with Price Waterhouse at the time, and I thought I would talk to him for 5 minutes, just to catch up and see how you're doing, and leave. He ended up talking to me for at least an hour. He's real forlorn. He wishes he could be with the Bears. He always considered himself a Bear. He was traded to Philadelphia for Jack Concannon, whatever year that was, 67 or something. But I said, why don't you write George Halas a letter like Tony and I did when we tried to get Clubhouse boys? Why don't you write him a letter that you want to be with the Bears? All right. So this is only like 5 or 10 years ago from now. They have a special on Mike Ditka on ESPN, and his wife says, oh, yeah, Mike decided he was going to write a letter to Coach Halas.
So you did that.
Possible.
You're responsible for
I know that I suggested that he should do it. All right. But we do know
credit. That's a damn good credit that should be taken.
But we do know that
Thank you.
The George Halas was deciding between George Allen, who was a great coach, by the way, and Mike Ditka, who's going to be the coach. And we called up Coach Hallis at home and said, Mike Ditka and Ronnie Bull were the only two Bears in our 4 years that talked back or challenged Coach Hallis in any way. Ronnie Bull, because after they drafted Sayers, he got very little playing time. All right. And he was always complaining that he should be in the game, swearing to Coach Hallis. And Mike Ditka would get off the field and, you got it. Why didn't you call this goddamn play? And you should be doing this and doing that. So he would be irate over what was happening on the field. And Tony Tnic called Coach Hallis at home and says, you want the guy that showed the gumption to challenge you while he was playing. That's the guy you want to be the coach.
Absolutely.
And, and he selected. So when Tony Tnic sort of takes some credit for that.
So we had a nice little comment in there saying that you should be getting a Super Bowl ring.
Who was that guy that you said was behind Gale Sayers and he started complaining?
Rodney Bull.
Yeah,
he was a rookie of the year in 1962, I think, from Baylor.
Right there.
So
he was no slouch. He was a good player.
Well, he was good, but Gale was just better.
Gale was unbelievable.
Gale was unstoppable.
So that
that's a great.
He had the 6 touchdowns. All the Bear players were in awe of Gale, just like my brother and I were. You know what I mean? Really, their mouths dropping when watching him. All right, they took him out. First and goal on the other teams, on the 49ers 3-yard line. They took Gale Sayers out first and goal.
Who took him out?
George Hallis.
Why?
All right. Okay. He says he didn't want to get Gale hurt. All right. My brother and I say the record that Gale Sayers tied was held by Ernie Nevers, a longtime player in George Hallis's era. And George Hallis did not want to let go of an old friend's record.
He didn't want Gale to break that record.
They put in John Arnett, who easily went through for might have been right on the first play after the first and 3.
Wasn't Gale Sayers killing in that game too?
He was what?
He was killing them in that game.
Almost every.
At any point in time, even the next 2 years, he didn't get hurt until after we were in college. All right, but at any point in time in the game, any position that the Bears were on at the time, if Gale Sayers had the ball in his hands, there was a legitimate threat that he would score.
Well, remember,
but in that San Francisco game, the game that he had like 5 touchdowns?
6 touchdowns.
6. Yeah.
Punt return, kickoff return.
But T, you got to remember, defense has changed for Gale Sayers his rookie year. Because remember, he had that record where he had 20 touchdowns as a rookie.
22.
22. Oh, right, because he had a kickoff.
And he didn't start the first 2 games.
Like he's got some insane record for a rookie.
Wow.
With 22 touchdowns in his rookie year. And they're just like, yeah, everything got to change to stop this guy.
Yeah. He was just phenomenal, but he was very quiet.
Hey, Carl, there's a great question that popped up that I'm really interested in wanting to know on this as well. Pop that back up, Commish.
Yeah, that is a great question.
Take away all Gale's injuries and hoping he could have had a lot longer.
It's going to be an unpopular.
That's a tough question.
Quick response. Gale Sayers was by far the best.
By far?
By far the best.
He said by far. He saw him.
Gale just didn't have a long career.
Like I told you, any point, any time of the game, 1 minute left, 20 minutes left, on their own 5-yard line or on the other team's 4-yard line, it didn't matter. If he had the ball in his hands, he was a threat to score. I never really saw that with Walter Payton.
Walter just never went
They
down.
say that Gale Sayers, he was just a breakaway runner. All right, he didn't have the power. You watch some of those old films. He had plenty of power.
Yeah, he had power.
He would go through that line there, and they would sort of like peel off.
Especially when you're practicing against Buckheads, you need to have power.
Yeah,
they didn't take it easy in practice back then.
They were similar physically, but not speed-wise.
Speed-wise, I think Gale Sayers was much faster, and I think Walter Payton maybe a little bit heavier.
Okay.
And we're forgetting an unknown player that Tony and I enjoyed, Andy Livingston. If you look him up, he played when he got an NFL exemption that allowed him to play. He was only 19.
What year was that?
I think this was 1966. He played a couple of years with the Bears, and then he went to New Orleans, and he was an All-Pro, and then he broke his knee, and he's out. All right, but his thighs were huge, and he could outrun Gale Sayers.
Really?
The good old days. So anyway, I just want to mention before I forget, do you guys remember or hear of Dick Gordon?
Yes.
I've heard of Dick Gordon. Yeah.
He was a wide receiver. 1970, he led the NFL in receptions and touchdowns. Somebody says 41, and he was number 48, right? But Dick Gordon was, again, he led the league. He was one of the first players to let his hair grow out in the afro, start wearing the, like Richard Roundtree type Superfly clothing, right? Right? And the Bears organization hated that. All right.
I bet they did.
My brother and I, we sort of liked it. All right. So we were like his champion. All right. So but now we're already, we're off to college. So we're not working for the Bears any longer. But my brother Tony, for that summer of after 1970, led the league in receptions and receiving touchdowns. He was holding out. And the Bears training that was in Rensselaer, Indiana. And my brother worked nights that year. He said, I'm going to drive to Rensselaer to talk to some of the guys. So he went up to Dick Gordon's room. There's in St. Joseph's College. So they had lived in dormitories. Mm-hmm. And Tony said, how's it going? He said, well, not too good. I'm holding out. And tomorrow is... today's the last day that I can hold out before they start fining me. Yeah. If I hold out again tomorrow, I start getting fined. All right. So Tony says, geez, have you done any work since you've been here? He says, no, I haven't participated in anything. I'm holding out. And so Tony says, well, it wouldn't be unusual for somebody who hasn't done anything for a while to get out there again and maybe pull a muscle. Exactly what happened. All right. Right. So, you got to remember now the salaries were way, way different than they are now.
Yes.
Yeah. Way different. All right. So I'm just throwing numbers sort of by memory. I think Bob Hayes with the Dallas Cowboys, he's the Olympic 100-meter champion. All right. I think he was getting like $75,000, and they offered Dick Gordon $45,000. That's why he was holding out. All right. So anyway, Dick Gordon was very kind to my brother and I. He was a running back at Michigan State. Then he's a receiver. All right. I hadn't talked to him for about 30 years and lost any contact information. And anyway, we hunted him down within the last month. He lives in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's 80 years old, got a lot of health issues, but we now call him once a week.
Wow.
All right. And his best friend his was Andy Livingston, this other running back I was telling you about. They did everything together. And when I talked to Andy Livingston when we were writing our book, he said, I have no idea what happened to Dick Gordon. You know, I'm bothered by it. I don't know why we lost contact. It's been years. So anyway, I hooked the two of them up. And we also hooked up the two of them with Johnny Morris, who's going to be 89 in September.
Oh, wow.
So don't get old. There's no future in it.
I thought Johnny Morris lives in California now.
No,
right?
he lives in like Bannockburn or somewhere like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
Lorenzo, that 4x4 relay team, I want to say from FAMU,
Yeah.
was world renowned as well.
Right. So and Dick Buckus, I will tell you the one thing about Dick Buckus on Saturdays. This is at Wrigley Field. All right. So they come in. You got to, they don't wear pads or anything, but you got to give them their sweats and jocks and stuff like that. And the defense would stay in the main locker room, and George Allen would control the film projector, and they're looking at the films from the previous week of the offense they're going to play this week,
Okay.
right? And on the upper level, the offense was looking at the defensive films, all right? So Tony and I sometimes either we'd go out and throw the football around, or sometimes we'd go, let's go watch the films. So we'd sit there with all the defensive guys, and George Allen, would stop the film and say, what key is this? What are they going to do? What are the percentages? What plays will they play? Will they run off of this formation, etc.? Dick Buckus knew every time. He knew the answer. And they'd go around. It's sort of like when you're in high school and one person's always answering and the teacher gets mad, it's going to call on everybody but that person. That's how George Allen did. He says, well, Ed O'Bradovich, what would they do here? And Ed O'Bradovich would go, Dick will tell me tomorrow. And they say, Doug, wait, what do we do here? Dick will tell me tomorrow. But he was a very smart football player. Besides for being, he knew how to rough everybody up pretty good. He had the perfect knack of let's say not. You could say he was piling on, but he had the perfect timing that that he could do that and not get penalized for it. And a lot of times I remember, the whoever he tackled would be on the ground, and Dick would go through the guy's face mask for leverage to get himself up off the ground.
Oh, shit.
He would let's say he knew how to give the maximum amount of punishment in any play
without getting penalized.
Excuse me?
Without getting penalized, though.
Yeah.
But R.I.P. Dick. R.I.P. Dick.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Just not numbers or anything, just your personal opinion.
Yeah.
The Bears have always had top tier linebackers. Like that was the thing. Linebackers, defensive end. You mentioned Bill George. A lot of people don't realize Bill George kind of kicked that thing off, right?
Right. So
in your opinion, who do you have? Bill George, Dick Butkus, Mike Singletary, or Brian Urlacher as the best Bears middle linebacker?
My order would be Butkus, George, Urlacher, and Singletary.
Oh, okay.
But I'm an old guy.
Well, no, but that's
just about to say the younger dudes probably wouldn't agree with that.
The reason I asked you that was because you saw things that we may have seen in highlights, right?
Yeah.
But we haven't seen Bill George. Like I had my dad or my grandfather something bequeathed me a card one time of him, and it was like an old Topps card where he was like doing this with no helmet on. So I know who he is, but I didn't know the impact in the Hall of Fame career that he had because we didn't.
Well,
see
he
it.
was one of the first true middle linebackers.
That's why I say he was one of the first. Yeah.
19. A lot of this Terrence are like
he started in the 50s.
patting myself
right?
on the back, but they happen to be true stories. All right. 1961, the 49ers came out. They reverted back to the shotgun.
Reverted back to the shotgun?
Reverted, at that time, everybody was a T formation quarterbacks, right?
Okay.
So, the T formation was invented by Ralph Jones from Stanford and Clark Shaughnessy, who would end up being the Bears defensive coach, right? But they the ones that developed the T formation, and Sid Luckman, ran away with it. He perfected it.
Okay.
So, 1961, the 49ers reverted back to the shotgun, and they had rotating quarterbacks. And it was John Brody, Bobby Waters, and one other guy. All right. But they would have every play, they'd have rotation. And they were beating the other teams 30-0, 28-0, piling on a lot of points. And this is back in the day where you'd get the Sports Illustrated, whatever, on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and we would devour the magazine on our kitchen table. And they had one on the 49ers with their shotgun.
Okay.
So it's in 1961, Tony and I were 12 years old. But we would go to Wrigley Field and wait at the firehouse, across the street there on Waveland, wait for the players to come in, talk to them, get a few autographs, wait for them to come out, talk to them again. All right. So anyway, they got a Sports Illustrated as a thing on the 49ers shotgun and shows the formation and everything. So Tony and I sat on our kitchen table and developed the defense against the shotgun and took it to Wrigley Field on the Saturday. They're playing the 49ers the next day on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
And Clark Shaughnessy was the head defensive coach that year for the Bears. He had developed the T formation way back when, all right? And Tony and I, Mr. Shaughnessy, what are you going to do to stop the shotgun? I have it right here, boys. Can't show you. And we said, come on, we're here every week. We're Bear fans. Let us see it. All right. Anyway, he took out the formation, what he was going to do. I swear to God, it was the exact same thing that my brother and I had on an index card.
Nice.
Bill George moving up if there was like a running quarterback, he would move up to the line. If it was the passing quarterback, he would drop back, as a middle linebacker, dropping back into coverage. And the Bears won 31-0.
Wow.
So the good old days. So we knew a lot about football, but our size prevented us from doing anything about it.
Sounds like you should have been a coach.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
They wouldn't give us any credence. But we had a lot of fun. That's for sure.
I gotta ask you with that information. How awesome was it? Because you said Wrigley Field. A lot of people don't know the Bears played there first.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How awesome was that playing football and watching them in Wrigley Field?
think
Not to say the Soldier Field wasn't great, but
it was very awesome. They went from left field bleachers across to the first baseline. That's how the field ran. They sodded the infield. That was used for the Cubs. The end zone would be the south end zone by the first baseline. That was 1 yard short of regulation.
That was a brick wall, right?
No, the
other side was a brick wall?
The other side was the left field wall.
Okay.
All right. Now you got to remember, too, that at that time the goalposts were at the goal line.
Yeah.
All right?
I remember that.
So, and the fans were right on top of you.
Okay.
All right. And the other side, the east side of the field, the bleachers were covered up because had erected stands that went across the field.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So you had
So
had
one way was regulation, the other way wasn't?
what the other one, the west side was the box seats and grandstands and upper deck, right?
Right, which
Following
came
the
out.
third base line. The other
Right.
side, they erected stands that went from like the right field line to center field.
The center field. Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
All right.
They didn't have enough seating.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know what they had, 45,000 or something. All right. So
Ooh,
the left
Lorenzo.
field, the Bears come out. At that time, the clubhouse is in the corner. If you remember, I got something going. I remind you. I'm not. Can you see my stuff there? No, maybe not. So the entrance to the field from the clubhouse is underneath the left field stands.
Okay.
All right. You come out the door there, come out in the corner of left field out to the field. And, like even now, the left field wall from like the furthest part where you hit a homer, it's coming down, right?
Mm.
Right?
Okay.
Coming down, and for the seatings are coming down, right? So Doug Atkins, our 4 years, we consider Doug Atkins to be more of a dominant player than Dick Butkus was in the 2 years that we were there, all right? So
really,
he would go on the last seat, just like a folding chair seat, all right? And sit at the very end. The wall had already sloped down, and he'd rest his arm on the top of the wall like that and talk to the fans. All right, yeah. Just shooting the breeze with the fans. All right, and then I say the Bears had a lot of three and out. 3 and out, punt and out. All right, for Christ's sake, here we go again. I'll be back in a while. And he would move like he could barely make it to the field. Once that whistle blew, he was just tremendous. Then the defense, they're gonna cause the other team to punt. He would barely could make it to the sidelines, sit in that chair and start talking to the fans again. So we remember one thing with Doug Atkins, again, 6'8", probably closer to 300 pounds.
That's a big dude, man.
He was a high jump champion.
That's Calais Campbell right now.
All right.
That's
he was a high jump champion in Tennessee. And more than once, he would vault over, the guards are like this, right? In their stance. He would just put his hand on the shoulder pad and use it for leverage and just vault over the guy and land on his feet to tackle the quarterback.
Nice.
It was.
So let me ask you this, Carl.
Yeah.
One of our guys, Lorenzo Clemens, who very knowledgeable, great guy. What did you think of George Blanda? And did you see the Chicago Cardinals at Comiskey Field?
I did not see the Chicago Cardinals at Comiskey, but Terry, I think you know, Terrence, that how we got the job with the Bears. We found out a defensive tackle lived in Cicero. His picture was in the paper.
Yeah.
We found his address and rode our bikes over there. All right. Yeah. That was on a Thursday. On a Saturday, he says, "Come back with your autograph book. A bunch of players are going to be here." One of them was George Blanda. Yep. So, at that time, for all of our era, he's playing he's gunning for the Houston Oilers at that time. He had a tremendous offense of Bill Groman, Billy Cannon, Charlie Henning, but Charlie Toller was a fullback. All right, but he was terrific and a terrific kicker, and then he starred up until he was 50 with the Oakland Raiders.
50,
right? He was almost 50. 50? 50. He was 48 or 49 when he retired.
Wow.
Look him up. All right. So I think Daryl LaMonica might have taken his spot.
The Mad Bomber.
At the old time. And George Bland was sort of like a Mad Bomber too. All right. But when Bill George got killed in a car accident, and my brother was in Kentucky with his wife. So I went to the service, which I think was in Barrington. And afterwards, I was invited by the friend who we first saw, Bill Bishop. He and his wife said, "We're going to go for lunch. Come along." It was Bill Bishop and his wife, George Blanda and his wife, and Fred Bolitnikoff.
Nice.
So Fred Bolitnikoff, I talked about
Fred Bolitnikoff, Raiders.
Yeah, he was the one that the
catch.
Madden made famous, that he had to stick them all over himself.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Which we tried to stick them, it doesn't really work that well.
So okay, going back to original lore, anybody ask trivia, the Bears were the Staleys 1922, the original thing. So the Cardinals / Staleys transform into the Bears. The Cardinals become the Phoenix Cardinals, then go to the Arizona Cardinals.
They first went to the St. Louis
Cardinals. St. Louis,
I thought it was St. Louis, yeah.
So they were like the also-ran team, right? But their people are retired already, but got to meet Elmer Angsman, was a great halfback. Now I'm seeing him, he's 50, 60 years old, all right? But he was a great halfback. Charlie Trippi was a tremendous back. So they had some real good players. Ollie Matson. Ollie Matson sticks out as a fantastic runner.
But isn't that crazy, though, that the Staleys turned into two teams where we actually had two pro football teams in Chicago?
Yeah. So the Staleys, I would say, would be more of the Bears than the Cardinals.
Well, than the Cardinals, because the Cardinals was actually afterwards.
Right.
But, like, we have the Cubs and the Sox. Like, we would have had the Bears and the Cardinals.
Yeah. So it brings me to how much time you got here. But so Dick Butkus's rookie year, when the Bears always played an Armed Forces game, and like their last exhibition game. That's the only game they did play at Soldier Field. And
Soldier Field was already built.
Yeah. Soldier Field was built in 1920s or whatever it was. So
it was around when the Staleys were around.
Probably. Yeah, but they played at Comiskey Park.
Nice.
But
okay.
Anyway, they had the money to raises money for the Armed Forces exhibition game, and as a thank you for the Clubhouse boys who had been working the whole time in Rensselaer during the summer, the Bears took them and let them work the game for the Bears, all right, on the Bears sideline. So our boss says, why don't you just go over to the Cardinals side and work the Cardinals side? So their coach was Wally Lem. And before the game was about to start, Dick Butkus had played in the College All-Star game and a few exhibition games. And anyway, Wally Lem calls all of his team around him and says, the Bears got this hotshot new middle linebacker, Dick Butkus, and we're going to show him what it's like to play in the NFL. We're going to teach him a lesson, all right? After the half, to come out for the second half, he gathered everybody around and says, Dick Butkus is the greatest player I've ever seen.
This is his rookie year.
His rookie year. So he did an about face in just one half. So the good old days.
Great stories, man, Carl. Because I just, unfortunately, if it's not for someone like you, we never hear those stories. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That builds the picture, right?
Yeah,
that builds the picture.
Yeah, so I would, just going to make a political comment if you don't mind.
Please.
Not political about politics, all right? But I just remember my brother and I at 10, 11, 12 years old, we would read about Bronco Nagurski and Curly Lambeau and George Hallis and Don Hudson.
Dandy Don.
All these Ernie Nevers, all these people from way back when. All right. I don't know that the current young people have that interest in the history. So that's my impression.
Now let me get political. The reason why I say that's a disservice.
Hey, JB, before we get into the next one, let's bring in. We got Foul waiting backstage.
Foul's here.
All right.
Yeah. So we're gonna bring in. Man, I don't even get to introduce him. Kirk just throws his ass on here.
Hey, how's it going?
You just got here?
No.
Nah, I've been back in the back listening for a little while.
Oh, shoot, they should have brought you in. Oh, duh, I'm 7 chats behind.
Yeah, it's all good.
But
that's my bad. I was supposed to do it, but I got sidetracked.
Get back on track.
Yeah, my fault. Foul. The
It's
man
all
with
good.
the foulest mouth in the city. Foul mouth C. That's the introduction. He's already in. But yeah, Foul. So this is Carl, and you've been listening backstage. But Carl is, as he was saying, he has all these stories about a lot of sports figures in Chicago. Now, Carl, aside from the Bears, you were also tight with some of the Blackhawks, right?
Yeah, they lived in Berwyn.
Let me get my hat on.
Right.
But can I interject something because of foul mouth?
Of course you can.
And then you guys can do your thing, right?
Of course.
So our very first day, very first game, we're 14-year-old from Cicero. Our mom and dad, we were not strangers to swear words. Our aunts and uncles, our mom and dad use them. All right. My parents usually didn't use anything with a sexual connotation, but anything else pretty much was fair game. All right.
Shit.
So the very first game, it's just like sort of like the Bears start out almost every game, like a full halfback dives into the line for a 1 yard or no yard gain. All right. And George Hallis starts swearing. He used everything in the book. Most of the words that we never would have heard from our parents. All right. So some of them started with a C.
I know that.
My mom was Puerto Rican.
T. All right. Some of them started with a C and ended with an R. We're three syllables. All right. But he would berate the umpire, the referee. It was just like the first play of the game, for inconsequential play. And he would be screaming all these words. And Tony and I were literally afraid that if our mom found out what we were hearing, that she wouldn't let us go back the next week. The founding father of football, he had a pretty big, he had a vocabulary of swearing that, he'd be right up there in the Hall of Fame. All right. So one time where we hear the same words, and George Hallis would follow Tony because Tony had the extra balls to throw in, and they'd sort of like go together along the sidelines. And Tony hears the swearing, and he knows it's not coming from George Hallis because George Hallis is right next to him. And he's looking all around. He can't figure out where it's come. And then we figured out it was the guy that was dressed up as the bear.
The
mascot. the good old days. So anyway, foul mouth. I just wanted you to know that the founding father of football, you're following in some great footsteps.
Hey, I love it.
Hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? We're going to go pay some bills real quick. I got to go to the bathroom. I don't know if you all got to go to the bathroom, but hey, Hey, I'm just saying why we gonna go pay some bills.
Number one or number two?
TMI again.
Okay, all right. How about this? I have to go do something. How about that? All right, Crooked, take us on out.
Listen, shout out to my man Terrence from Chicago's Clubhouse podcast, from the Moore's Brewing Company here in Chicago, Illinois. All right, we got bros out here putting out this for the Moors. It's tasty. I didn't even have to come on here lying about this. All right, this tastes like what I like when I drink a beer. I don't drink a beer often because I'm too big and I need to stay off of carbonated drinks. But this is the carbonated drink you need to open up and crack and take a sip. All right, if you want to come out of the dark ages, be educated. All right, get you some of this Moore's brew right here. It's definitely tasty. You can get it in Kimbark and High Park.
He didn't play the long one.
No, took too long.
Well, as long as he ain't doing a number 3.
No, I'm saying Crook didn't play the long commercial.
Oh, he didn't play the long commercial.
Long commercial.
We're gonna drop the ball again, Crook.
Drop it.
As soon as I saw Kenneth Davis come on, I was like,
yeah, that was a smart one.
Well, all that was brought to you by Moore's Beer, which is great tasting. JB can account to that. So can Tnic. Frank, have you ever had Moore's Beer?
I've had it before, yes, but I mean, we still don't have them out here in the burbs.
Oh, okay.
Only a city.
Well, we know one thing that you do have, which is your in the zone gear.
I don't have it on.
The leggings that he likes to wear.
Oh, yeah, that ass out.
Like when you love to do your Prince impersonations, you wear your in the zone gear.
More Michael Jackson than Prince.
I don't really know where we're going with this anymore. So,
we never even know what the hell we're witnessing.
Off the track. Bring it back.
Yeah.
So Carl, I wanted to ask you something. Are you following like these Bears at all?
Quite honestly, for a while, it's sort of like sick of all the hype for every year, and the
propaganda.
Yeah, the Cubs, for a few years, might be in the running, and you rarely hear about them because it's a Bears town, right? But in 2000,
we're in a rough era right now. All our Chicago sports.
So in 2013, the Bears had a 50-year reunion of the '63 championship team.
Okay.
And they invited Tony and I. All right. And we thought,
you're saying that's the best team, right?
That's the championship team.
I'm saying that's the best team that you've witnessed.
That's the best team that we witnessed. 65 was pretty good too, but they didn't quite go all the way. But we thought we're just going to be
ladies out,
just going to be part of the attendees, not part of the celebration. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that we were part of the entire celebration. All the players wanted us, and they took pictures and say, where are the twins? We got to get the twins in and stuff. So they were so kind to us. So since that time, I started paying a little bit closer attention and hoping for better things. And in the last few years, I can see sort of that the Bears have a plan. And it seems like they're sticking to the plan. And I think there's going to be some good things.
It seems to be heading in the right direction.
We're definitely heading in the right direction. I think Poles has a good plan. We have to see how it's implemented. But, and this is just me talking out, I'm not speaking for the fellas, but you and your brother should be more a part of alumni night, because you all were every kid's dream. You all lived it, right?
So
if we didn't get to play, we wanted to be the ball boy, or we wanted to be on the field. Like, oh my God, Deacon Jones threw his jersey to me. Everybody wanted to be that.
Yeah. So we were pretty skilled at football, but our size, we're not going to advance. So my brother and I we ran at Morton, cross country and track.
Okay.
But we pretty skilled with throwing the old football around. So at halftime, that was the only time that we had very little to do. So we could go in and sort of get in the way of the players, but for sort of no reason. So we would use that time my brother would send me through the goalpost, for a 40, 50-yard bomb.
Okay.
And entertain the fans, right? And we got a tremendous kick out of doing it. And the Bears public relations director would get real mad that we were taking away attention from the marching band and all that kind of stuff. All right. So a lot of times the Bears offense would stall, and there were the left field bleachers and the left field corner. They would start a chant to put in the Twins.
Put the Twins in.
George Hallis looked at my brother and Tony said, "Hey, they saw us play." All right. So in this 2013, when they're taking a team picture of the remaining Bears that are there at the function, all of a sudden we're here. Where are the Twins? We got to put the Twins in. It was the players yelling for us. Wow. So to this day, at 75, I think about it, it's like a thrill. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That they remembered.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there's not too many people living anymore.
You and your brother are a significant part of Bears lore. That's to be celebrated.
Yeah.
No conversation needed.
Yeah.
So and I thank you, because your stories, I'm like this. I'm hanging on. Like tell me more.
Yeah. We just had a wonderful time. We were lucky kids. So when we wrote the book, it's pretty much all positive stuff in our book. There are some things in there that weren't too pleasant. Chose to just keep it to ourselves. Why?
I think what Leah is trying to say is, Carl, name the best Bears coach in NFL history. You can't choose Papa Bear.
I would
that
say
leaves two options, in my opinion.
I'd say it's got to be Papa Bear and Mike Ditka.
If you can't choose Papa Bear, it's got to be
Ditka. The Bears' demise started with what you mentioned: Jim Dooley, Abe Gibran, Neil Armstrong. Jack Pardee wasn't bad.
The coaching
he was a player with the Rams. All right. But even our
But didn't he have controversy behind him? If I remember reading, Pardee, he took the job, but that wasn't the job he wanted. He wanted the Dolphins job when Shula retired. Wasn't there something about him?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. But here's another thing. 1963 championship team. How many coaches did they have, including head coach George Hallis?
Probably just 4, right?
7.
Dooley was always a coordinator, if I'm not mistaken, right?
And Dooley was at that time was like an offensive coordinator with Luke Johnsos. They had another guy, Chuck Mather, helped out in the backfield. Phil Handler was the line coach. And
I remember that name from that documentary.
Right. And
I remember him.
The defense had 2 coaches. George Allen, who was the brains behind the whole outfit.
The offense,
and Joe Steidar, who was a Hall of Fame lineman. And he was their line coach.
Did not know that.
All right.
Did not know that.
So the coaches were pretty much had a lot of, they were great players in and of themselves. And now all of a sudden you start to bring in these guys who were, second or third tier people. And you end up sort of where you're at. Somebody mentioned about Lovie Smith. Well, he was after I stopped. I wasn't paying too much attention at the time, but he certainly wasn't a bad coach.
He wasn't a bad coach, right? And
No.
I'll say this because in more recent times, modern Bears fans equate Lovie Smith with the Super Bowl because we haven't had it since '85, right? But like when you mentioned, and we're all in some shape, form, or fashion historians on here, but when you mentioned George Allen, like I can go back and remember his son. Wasn't it Bruce that was the
Bruce.
Redskins coach or coordinator? Those are trees, lineages that are still prevalent in today's game.
Yeah.
Right.
So George Allen was, he did all the drafting. He developed the defense. Can you see me, by the way? Because I got a block on my thing.
No, we see you.
Okay.
No, we
so
see you.
He wanted to leave the Bears to go to be head coach of the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And George Halas took him to court. That you have an employment contract as a coach with the Bears, so you cannot go to the Rams. All right.
What year was that?
I'm guessing it was early 70s. All right. So George Halas took him to court.
Did he win?
George Halas won. And while there, he got the verdict, and he says, all right, you can go. So George Halas just wanted to prove a point. He proved the point.
He went through all that to prove a point.
Yeah, he proved the point and then says, okay, then now you can go.
Well, George Ellis was petty.
Yeah.
he was petty.
I mean, that's Papa Bear. Like, we can't.
So Papa Bear was, we didn't have much interaction with him. He'd come down from the coach's side and come by us, and we'd say hi, and he'd say hi or something like that. Or he spoke the Czech language, and my father was fluent in Czech, so we went to Rensselaer once. They conversed in the Czech language. It was a thrill for Tony and I. But say, hey, I think he was more of a cheerleader than he was a technician at that time. So he relied on other people.
That's funny you mentioned the Rams, Carl, because I remember my dad always saying, rest his soul, the Rams were owned by an Olympic swimmer, and then his wife, like, he drowned swimming, and then his wife took over the team. Right? I
forgot the Rosenblum or something.
Rosenblum, right?
Yeah.
72 Olympics, right? Something like that. Yeah. I just always thought that was like, it was always this dark stigma around the Rams. So I'm glad George Allen wanted to go to the Rams, but it's like, that was crazy times.
So George Allen, he was a real quiet guy. All right. And 1966, our last year, the defense was already, Bill George had retired, and they had Butkus and Fortunato and Morris were at their end. They had brought in Buffon. The line was getting old. They brought in some guys. So it wasn't that good of a defense. And one time he was upset at the play on the field and went to turn, and he tripped over my brother.
Oh.
All right. And got mad at my brother. All right.
Okay.
And Tony says, just because the defense stinks, you don't have to take it out on me.
Oh wow!
He was telling the truth though. He was telling the truth. So.
And then after the game, George Allen came and apologized to Tony.
Right. It ain't his fault.
It's sort of like we learned real early not to take any guff from anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we were always respectful. I think they all liked us, but
plus, y'all was from Cicero, man. Don't nobody take no shit over there.
I guess. So,
nobody takes shit over there.
So, Rick Caceres was a star fullback for many years with the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
He was all pro a couple of years. He's had the tail end of his career. And sometime in November, he broke his leg. So in the championship game, he was in a cast on the end of the bench. And at the end of the bench where I was, because they had an old-fashioned water thing where you pump it to get the water for the players. And for the championship game, there's a lot more press on the field than for a regular game. All right? So they issued their field pass. And you tell them, if there's an end sweep, don't watch the play. You got to get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
All right? It's just like polo. If you're going to go to a polo game, when the horse is going over the boards, they don't stop. They go over the boards and then come back, right? Those linemen, they're not stopping. They're just keep going. Mm-hmm. So if you see a sweep, get out of the way. So one fella on the sidelines did not get out of the way. He would knocked up into the air. And as he's coming down, a bunch of money fell out of his pocket. And if you're the championship game, there was snow around it had snow, so there's snow around the sidelines, all right? And he was too embarrassed he was embarrassed, so he just got out of there and never came back, all right? But you can see the money falling out. And Rick Caceres is on the bench with his cast, and he says, hey, twin, that guy dropped a lot of money over there. You can make yourself good money. And I told him, why don't you pick it up yourself? You guys are so cheap, you need it more than I do. So, those are a few things we remember where sarcasm got the best of us.
How did he respond?
Most of the time in the later years, we got a little bit more brazen.
How did he respond to that?
What could he say? I don't think he said anything.
Good point.
He was surprised that I said something, probably. But in the later years, a lot of our time was spent on the sidelines with Dick Gordon, Jimmy Jones, who was a wide receiver from Wisconsin, all right, and one other guy, but they're being underutilized. Mm-hmm. They're using Richie Kreitling, was like a ancient wide receiver. I thought was good with Cleveland. You find out the only reason we thought it was good is because he had an interesting name. All right, but we'd always be on the sidelines there, like fomenting dissension amongst the ranks. Like,
so you guys should be
playing. How come you're not in? They should get in the game. And Gale Sayers and Dick Gordon would be in tandem for the kickoff returns. And Dick Gordon, I think, was leading the league with like 30 or 35 yards per kick return. But he didn't have the explosiveness of Gale Sayers, who I told you, if he had his hands on the ball, there's a chance he might score, right? And then that last year or two, Dick Gordon would get the ball and return it 35 yards. And Abe Gibran, who was just a line coach, would be swearing at him. How come you didn't let Sayers get the ball?
Oh, wow.
So anyway, maybe one of the reasons why Dick Gordon liked Tony and I, because we sort of always championed his cause.
Clearly.
When you call a player ancient, aren't you saying, because earlier you said a guy was ancient, he was like 47.
Yeah. Well, George Blanda was an unusual player. He was one of the. I think he might have been the oldest player ever. If you look him up.
I think
he was still a good. He was still a good place kicker too.
You're right, because he turned into a place kicker and punter right later in his career.
Yeah. But if you went ancient, I'm saying they're 35 or some 34, 35, and Dick Gordon might be 24 or 25.
Mm.
And more speed, right? How come you guys aren't seeing the ball?
So a lot of these stories that you're telling are in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I happen to.
Yeah, the last two I mentioned about the George Allen or Rick Caceres, we chose to leave those out.
Yeah.
Just think about those positive things.
Okay. But yeah, so everybody in the chat, if you want to hear more or you want to read more, get this book. Where can they get it?
Well, you can get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Amazon, Barnes and those are
Amazon or Barnes and Noble.
So those are the only two outlets that you get this book.
Right.
Okay.
It's been doing okay, for a couple of people that people don't really know. So it's like I don't know best to tell you. So you can get your rank on Amazon, for example. All right.
Okay.
My wife's got a rank.
And let's say it when the first. Very rare that this happened. The first day that it came out, we were on Amazon's bestseller list.
Nice.
The second day, we're like the old honeymooner episode where we were feeling impending doom.
Froze up?
One day?
We're running out of friends.
In one day?
Say the next day, we're running out of friends. We're probably not going to keep our rank.
Wow.
All right. Okay. So we were up there at the start, and then then it tails down. All right. So let's say we look today, and it's my rank is or Tony and I's rank is say 1.5 million. With one being great and 1.5 million not so great, right?
Right.
And let's look it up. It's whatever. 10 days later or something. I look up. Look, I was actually. We're up to 168,000. 1.5 million to 168,000. You know what that means?
A lot of sales.
Somebody bought one book.
Oh, really? What?
Yeah. Bought that one book. But you know what? We get just excited as if it was thousands of books. We went from 1.5 to 168,000. Oh my God.
At least somebody wants to read it. Yeah. That's good.
Barnes & Noble has been very good to us. We've had 3 book signings.
Oh,
for them.
Okay.
No, actually 4. And they were surprised that each time when they invited, they 2 we went to Old Orchard. They had reopened up in Old Orchard. Mm-hmm. Then they opened one up in May in Lincoln Park. Then in June they opened one up in Northbrook. And each time they invite us, we like sort of the same thing as like that second day on the Amazon. They say, geez, how many times can we count on friends to come over?
To show
right?
Up.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Ends up that there's a lot of people who we don't know that end up buying the book. So we end up being surprised.
I'll tell you what, Carl, the next time that you do that, make sure you let us know.
Okay.
And we will show up.
Yeah.
And we will bring people with us.
Yeah. So you have to say that I'll say this. Did we write it because it's going to be this hugely popular book? No. But a lot of people throughout the years, when we're telling them stories, like those ones we're telling today about the Bears,
they want to read more,
or the Hawks, or something like that. They say, you guys should write a book. So during the COVID shutdown, we may as well write it. Yeah.
So everybody, if you want more, get the book. Yeah. Get the book. It's entertaining. It's good reading.
Yeah. So So Terrence, thank you for that. we have stories of the Cubs. We were very close friends with the Cubs' iconic clubhouse manager, Yosh Kawano. Mm-hmm. He worked for the Cubs for 60 years. It was a close friend who we met our first day of moving in the Bears to Wrigley, and he's packing up the Cubs to move out. And the Blackhawks, I said that all the stars lived in South Berwyn. And I think it was because they could take Ogden Avenue all the way to the stadium. And Berwyn was a step up from Cicero in terms of beauty and, just all around environment. All right. So, but it was the same thing. We started the journey by meeting the Chicago Bear in 1960. We're 11 years old. 2 years later, there's a picture of Pierre Palat, who was a Hall of Fame Bears defenseman and captain. He lives at Berwyn resident. So the subtitle of our book is A Recollection of a Bygone Era. The bygone era is the fact that you can get your phone book out and they're listed in the phone book with an address and a phone number. That doesn't happen now.
No, not now.
Yeah. So anyway, we went to Pierre Palat, who was a Hall of Fame. They had just won the Stanley Cup in 1961. And we're there because we're twins. You had a little bit of a novel. Oop, I lost me. You there?
No, we're still here. We're still here.
So because we're twins, it was sort of a novelty at that time. Where we could get in the front door more easily because they were abused. But anyway, Pierre Palat says, "You want to go see Glenn Hall? He's a Hall of Fame goalie, Mr. Goalie."
You don't got to tell me that. I know.
Yeah. All right. So Glenn Hall. Yeah. So let me call him. It was on a Sunday. Let me call him because he takes a nap before the game to make sure that he's still up, that he can receive you guys. So he called him. Yeah. So it was Pierre Palat was 2813 South Ridgeland. Glenn Hall was 3212 South Gunderson. From Glenn Hall sent us to Bobby Hull and Stan Makita. We're on 37th and Winona. Then we went back to Elmwood, 36th and Elmwood. Originally was a couple, Jerry Melnick or Len Lundy. I can't remember which one was first, but not very good wingers. But one time we were there, I said, across the street, we got another player. You want to go see him? We became a dear, dear friend of ours, Chico Mackey, right wing with the Blackhawks. Mm-hmm. And now you think about it, Frank, we're in high school. The Cup ticket's very hard to get. Bobby Hull in his day was the Michael Jordan. He was the precursor of Michael Jordan, how popular he was.
Biggest mistake Blackhawks ever made was trading him.
Yeah. And Chico Mackey would call us up, say, I got tickets. You want to go to the game? So he would pick us up at our home. His wife would be in the front, Tony and I would be in the back. We were sitting in the second balcony somewhere, and his wife's in the mezzanine with the family section. All right. Didn't see him. And then we lose him. Are you there? I don't know why I'm getting a whole bunch of. You still there?
Yeah, we're still here. Yeah, we're here. We are hearing static a little bit, but
can you see me?
Yeah, we see it.
I don't know what's happening. So anyway, you wait for the game to be over. He's got to shower, come out and sign autographs, and then take us home, drop us off at our home. And at that time, there's no TV timeouts. They weren't even on TV at that time either, all right? But there's no such thing as TV timeouts. So we could get back home in time to see the replays on the 10 o'clock news.
Oh, wow.
Now the game's not over until then. So, and we played, one time we went there and three of the Hawks were visiting Chico, was Phil Esposito, Dennis DeJordy, the backup goalie, and Murray Hall, a winger. And Tony and I always had our football around. We always carry a football with us. They said, let's go play football. So Tony and I challenged it. Chico didn't want to play. So Tony and I challenged the three of the Hawks, including Phil Esposito. And they were no match for the Ruzicka twins. And one time he called us up we always say, come skate. Well, we would skate on the flooded field, 28th and East in Berwyn.
Nice.
And we said, come on and join us. So, we won't tell anybody who you are. And one time he called up and says, my skates are in the stadium. If you have skates, I'll come over there and join you guys. And it turns out he wore a size 6.5 skate. And, we didn't have anything that small. But you think about it, even now, sort of like, it'd be like teary-eyed that he would think that much of Tony and I, that he would sort of put himself at risk just to play with the two of us. So
what amazes me, Carl?
Yeah.
I'm 48 years old, and I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. But you're 75 years old, and you can recall all this shit from when you were 12 years old.
That's how you know you enjoyed your childhood.
That's crazy.
Okay, so part of it is that I have a twin brother to share the stories with, right? And part of it is that we've told these stories for many times throughout the years, all right? But our nieces and nephews who are now, in their 50s and early 60s, but, started when Tony, the first niece was when we were 16 years old. But one time they says, how come Uncle Carl and Uncle Tony know all these trivial things? And my answer was, because I don't retain any important things. So what could you say, Terrence? Maybe we remember it because nothing happened since. Like I told you, don't get old. There's no future in it.
Man, I wish I could stop time and not get old, but unfortunately, I think we're all gonna get old. And you're gonna get older, but you know what? We love you, man. We appreciate all these stories.
Yeah.
And
so can I bring up one other topic?
What's that?
Can I bring up one other topic?
Sure, go ahead.
So the other thing that we talked about there is running. So we were fortunate enough to go to Yale for undergraduate school. And one of our teammates there was Frank Shorter, who was one of Tony and I's dearest friends. I don't know if you knew, he won the gold medal in the 1972 Olympic marathon. He won the silver medal in the 1976 Olympic marathon, lost to a East German cheater. And really, Frank was tremendously popular during that period of time in the 70s and early 80s. And we were his accountants. And at that time, you could not make money and be in the Olympics. And he was very, very popular, very powerful. And he testified to Congress about that the runners should be able to earn a living from running. And we met with Olin Castle, was the president of the AAU, Amateur Athletic Union. So it was Frank, Olin Castle from the AAU, president of the Bank of Boulder, Colorado, Steve Bosley, and Tony and I and Frank. And we hammered out an agreement where the runners could make money. And that also then was acceptable to the Olympic Committee. So if you think about it, two incidental accountants, who happened to be tagging along with Frank Shorter, us hammering an agreement ultimately led to the dream team.
Wow.
And because of our relationship with Frank, Tony and I became founding members of the Chicago Marathon. And what we're most proud in that is that we started the first effort for the runners to run for philanthropy. And that's a huge industry now where, runners pledge certain amounts or get their friends to pledge certain amounts, and it all goes to charity.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very proud of that.
Excellent.
Okay. Other than that, we didn't do anything. Two accountants going along our way.
Okay. All right. Well,
thank you for all your time.
Two accountants that are legends in Chicago sports.
Right.
Appreciate you, Carl.
I appreciate your time.
All right. Appreciate your time. And tell Tony next time we want to hear from him too.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot, Carl.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll sign off. Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thanks again.
All right.
Bye.
Great stories right there. Yeah. Great stories.
I love Carl, man. Awesome. Awesome. He's an awesome guy, awesome person. And Tony is no slouch either. I love Tony, man. But they were on before, and they gave us even more stories than that. But I'm still stuck on this. He said, and this is his opinion, he said that Gale Sayers was a better running back than Walter Payton.
I mean, as a Bear fan, I'm not going to be mad at that.
I'm not mad at it.
No, I mean, everybody's going to say Walter Payton first. I mean, that's a common thing.
Well, maybe it's a generational thing.
Yeah, Gale Sayers had a short career. Like, I mean, what could he have done?
5 years, right? 5 or 6 years.
I thought it was like 6 or 7. JB, what do you think? Was
it definitely wasn't 7.
No, who, Gale Sayers?
Yeah, how many years did he play?
6.
No, I think it was like 6 or 7.
Yeah, I thought it was like 6 or 7.
It was.
But, I mean,
Walter, I know it was 7.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much cut in half of what Walter did. So you don't know what Gale. I mean, the rate.
I know he tried to come back, but he was hurt.
Yeah, and he still played great hurt, but he couldn't make it through. Like,
no, he didn't play great hurt. That's the thing. Like back then, tearing your knee up, was
you didn't have the rehabbing abilities.
Was a death sentence.
Yeah. And I mean, what could have been for him? I mean, there's no question. That guy was unstoppable. Walter Payton was just a straight brick house, never went down, never went out of bounds, never nothing. But Gale Sayers was just so smooth. So smooth and so quick.
Yeah, it was 6 seasons.
Was it only 6? Okay.
I said 6 or 7.
I
you
knew
said
it
5.
was,
I said 7.
I said it definitely wasn't 7.
But I mean, I said it definitely wasn't 5. So I mean, we're right in the middle.
Right. What the hell was all that? Right. So we both get half credit.
Yeah.
See that? That's your IQ, buddy. 0.
Fuck you, Mike.
Where did that come
from? Hey, man, I think
we
might need to cut this one a little short.
Get him into some shout outs.
We went a little past what we wanted to but it was worth it. It was worth it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into some shouts.
All right, I'll hit it off. Shout out to you guys. Always a pleasure coming in on Tuesdays. I'm gonna give a nice little shout out to the Team USA Olympics. 40 gold medals. Absolutely destroyed everybody in full medal count. So shout out to the US at the Olympics as well. Other than that, hey man, I got nothing else. Nice seeing Easy back. You know, as much as you annoy the shit out of me, dude, still so nice hearing from you. And you don't annoy the shit out of me. It's just me being a smart ass. Other than that, I got nothing else. Go Bears. Good first game. I know it's preseason, so I don't even really count it as a game. So let's just keep heading in the right direction. Bear finger.
Oh, you JB.
So I always have the longest part, right? But it's worth it. It's well worth it. As I'm scrolling up. Yeah, scroll up. Let's scroll up. Give me a second. I'm trying to scroll up, but it's getting stuck. There we go. Okay. So here on the Chicago Clubhouse podcast, if you took the time to tune in and watch us, we're going to take the time to shout you out and give you a just due. Starting off with Jay Grizz. Jay Grizz came off. David Augustine. All those guys came off hot and heavy at the beginning. Keith Sperry. Thank you for chiming in. Frank Marshall. Toussaint J. AC Adam. All those guys came in early. EZ. All those guys came off early. Cricket Commission. Matt Henry. Good evening to you, Matt Henry. Thank you for chiming in. Those guys came in early and often. Kicked the show off with some great conversations. Great comments in the chat. Lorenzo Clemens. Much love to him. Thank you for chiming in. Z-Force, our resident IHSA referee and actor. Z-Force chimed in. Silky D, for you all that don't know, that is champion, Super Bowl champion, 85 Bears wide receiver Dennis McCoy. Chiming in here on the Chicago Clubhouse podcast. We thank you for that. Jesse Cottrell, welcome back. Haven't seen Jesse in a minute, but glad to see Jesse. Jeanette Johnson, one of our P1s. Love when Jeanette shows up. Much love to you, baby girl. Appreciate you. Frank O'Dowd, thank you for chiming in. We appreciate Frank. Hey, Champ Cabo Rubio, haven't heard from him in a minute. Thank you, Champ, for chiming in. And we have, my man Bullets, my brother from another. Thank you for chiming in. Bullets coming from that West Coast, that Cali love, that LA. Love when he comes in on that West Coast. Leah, Team Kuma's armbar. I think that's new, but thank you for chiming in, Leah. We appreciate you. Logan Jiu-Jitsu Kuma Ninja, we remember you from a couple weeks ago. Thank you for chiming back in and repping with us. And if we only have one person on the views, we know it is Miss Sandra Bynum Holmes, most affectionately known as the podcast mom. Thank you, Mom. Shout out to SB. Shout out to UT. Frank. Shout out to the Razika twins. Shout out to Foulmouth. And that's it.
You sure that's it?
That's all I got.
Okay. All right. Well, here I come. Pause.
What's your own pause?
So I guess I will round up the crew, and I'll keep it short. Everybody in the chat, we appreciate y'all. We really appreciate y'all. There would be no show if it wasn't for you all putting up with our foolishness. However, if you were in the chat but did not say anything, then you are officially producer
L for love. Good times.
You are officially a lurker, but we appreciate you anyway because you put up with our foolishness and you chime in and listen to what we have to say. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Carl Ruzika, Carl and Tony, man, it's always a pleasure to talk to you all. And I have a special place in my heart for those guys because, like I said earlier, they came to my pop's funeral and they didn't know me from a can of paint. but they came and supported and shook hands with me, and I thought that was so cool. So, and I appreciate them for coming on the show, telling their stories, and sharing their book with us. So if you all want to hear more, you want to read more, get the book. It's entertaining. I haven't read the whole thing yet, even though he gave it to me like 2 years ago. I haven't read the whole thing yet.
Don't say that.
But I have. Hey, I gotta be honest. But I have read a good portion of it, and it's entertaining. I've only fallen asleep a couple times, and that's because I was dead tired. Get the book. Go to Amazon. Get it. I want to shout out. I'm not going to shout out the Olympics, but I am going to shout out the chumps that decided breakdancing is no longer going to be in the Olympics. No, it's not a sport, I don't think, but it's entertaining as fuck. And I loved watching. But it's one and done. One and done. Kind of like when Chicago sports teams get to the playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
But the Bears' arrow is pointing up. So we will continue to monitor that. Speaking of which, tomorrow and every Wednesday until Hard Knocks is over, we are going to have a recap show. So if you are interested in Hard Knocks with the Chicago Bears, a few of us are going to recap the show. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And I want to shout out our sponsors, Visions.
But you got to have vision.
Perfect timing. In the Zone Sportswear. Frank is not here to model the shirt or the leggings, but let's be thankful that he's not here to model the leggings. Also, Moore's Beer. Hey, JB, you got a Moore's.
Raise your standards.
Raise your standards. Get you some Moore's Beer. Get it at Benny's. You can get it at Whole Foods. You can get it at Some Jewel. You can get it at A&S Liquor Store, which is formerly Kimbark Liquors. But they're all over the place. Moore's is all over the place, and it's good beer, so make sure you get some. Aside from that, I don't really have anything else. So, producer, can you take us out? This has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production. You have to decide, are you a wolf or a sheep?
Oh.
You got to decide whether you're a wolf.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.
Peace out, Ecuador. Bye-bye. See ya. You're